My name is Daniel Posney, and this is Shifting Perspectives, and this is about losing yourself in love. And I'm really excited about this, and I can feel vulnerability coming up. And when I think about vulnerability, I'm not so nervous as I am excited, because vulnerability to me is opening myself up to more instead of controlling myself. So if I think about talking about this topic and I try and keep myself, in control and not too emotional, that's not vulnerable. But I'm limited in myself. And as I start feeling this feeling, what if you just let yourself be? What if you let yourself be vulnerable to whatever comes up in this? That's a powerful place, because it's not just me then. Then I'm opening myself up to the love, the energy that wants to come through me. So that's what I'm feeling right now. So I have some notes about different things. So I want to make sure that I give you some spiritual insight about it, but also some practical, because that's how I kind of roll, is I give both sides of the equation. And I decided I'm going to show you what this looks like. If that isn't a vulnerable place, I don't know what is. So let's see what comes up here. This feeling, this losing yourself in love, it's bliss, ecstasy, oneness, and a bunch of other words that are kind of in the same, kriyas, kind of, you get these little shocks of energy in your body, and I'll talk about that later, how you can utilize that to open yourself into losing yourself into love. It is the ineffable, what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm doing my best to explain it, but it's not really a thing to be explained, so I'll do my best. And that's why the best thing that I could do is to show you, so we'll do that. It is unknowable, meaning with my brain, I can't know this. I can't put it into a box. I can't categorize it. I can only give words that kind of point to it, but that don't really show it, don't really, you can't really have it be that. Just like you can't really give yourself a name and know yourself. I can't really know you just by knowing your name. It's ununderstandable. It's also what an African shaman might say, that which the brain cannot eat. Think about that. That which the brain cannot eat. It's like as much as I try and get my brain around it, and I even think about that concept, that idea, that which the brain cannot eat. You can't get there. The more, in fact, the more the brain, the more I will struggle to talk about this, the further away I'm going to get from it. Because it's as soon as you try and form it, poof, it goes away. And it's meant to do that. It's not meant to be, it's meant to be something outside of the knowable. So I just want to kind of put that spiritual context in there and just let you know that as much as we'll do our best to understand this and experience it, if it was knowable, it wouldn't be so awesome. It's like biting your own head. Think about just biting your head, that you can't get there because your mouth is here and your back of your head is there. You can't get there. It's like moving outside of your own body. You're in your body. You can't move outside your body unless you have some letting go experience, some altered state experience that removes you from the structure of your body and your thoughts, that puts you out into this unknowable, ununderstandable realization that you've never needed your body. You are this beingness that is into the body. So to know this, to kind of bring this closer to you, is to talk about it. So we can talk about it and we can kind of stir this up. This is what I do when I take people out on the land for like a spiritual awakening land journey or heart awakening land journey. is we start to talk in this heart-centered way, and we start to connect with nature. We start to look at the little flowers on the ground and wonder at their beauty, and to look at the blue sky and the contrast in the colors, and it starts to open up your heart. And it's not really meant for us to name all the flowers and to name what kind of clouds those are. So it's not a brain focused thing. It's more of a heart focused experiencing. Then what we do is we start to talk about this and connect with each other. We start calling this in. And as we call it in, we start accepting it. So the question comes up, how far are we willing to go in this losing yourself in love? And even asking that question kind of has the answer in the asking of the question. Because if you ask that question, how far am I willing to go? Well, the end. Am I willing to have my egoic self, my physical self die in the knowing and the experiencing of losing myself in love? That's kind of the ultimate answer, right? How far am I willing to go? Am I willing to become a lunatic because I've lost myself in love? Well, no, I still want to have my life. So in the asking of the question, there's this what's the word? Negotiation. Well, I want a little bit, but I still want to be with, well, how much do you want to be with yourself? How much of your egoic self are you willing to let go of? Do you want to become one of these monks? Do you want to become one of these enlightened beings that is just completely the embodiment of love? We have this way I feel we have this kind of determination of what is the experience that we want to have. We're already it. We're already lost ourselves in love. That's where we come from. And then we're having this dream reality. And in the dream reality, how far do you want to go in the dream? So there's this little knowing in the background that says, I can't really lose myself because I'm not really here. I'm not really in this body. I'm having this dream. So what if he said, well, if I can never really die from this, how far can I go? Do you see where this goes? Losing yourself in love kind of brings up these fears and brings up these negotiations. So that's what we're going to kind of play with here. If there's any feeling of fear in the answer for this question, you've touched on the resistance. So when we say, I can't understand what you're talking about. I can't understand this idea of losing yourself in love. You can, if you start asking that question, how far are you willing to go in losing of yourself in love? Then you start understanding how you play yourself out and how your egoic self, asks those questions and kind of keeps yourself in check. If you've ever had an experience like I have of just completely losing your identity and realizing that you never needed it, you only use it to have the body, to have the personality, but you don't need it to exist. Then you start to kind of realize that there's this negotiation that happens with the egoic self and the identity and the personality. So kind of hopefully I let you know that we're going to go deep on this one. All right, so let's go into what this is and what it feels like. There's a story that I usually tell about Ram Dass and how he went to India after he got kicked out of Harvard as a teacher, a professor, and he went to India and he met Neem Karoli Baba, which became his guru, and he was telling the story about how people would ask Neem Karoli Baba, how do you become enlightened like you? And he'd say, serve people, and that wasn't enough, so he said, meditate. That wasn't enough, so he said, meditate like Christ. That wasn't enough, they wanted to know how. And so instead of answering the question with more ponderings and more logic that can just be questioned over and over again, he just dropped into it. He dropped into the meditation right there and then. And tears came down his cheeks. And he said he lost himself in love. He was one with all beings. And if we do this, if we, like, the more that I tell the story, the more I'm able to just drop into what Neem Karoli Baba dropped into, what Jesus dropped into. Just allowing myself to say, okay, what would that feel like? What would happen? I'd be completely still, and I allow the emotions to come up into my heart, and I wouldn't block it, and I just allow myself to be vulnerable, and I would just say, kind of, yes, yes, I'm open to this. And I just allow it to kind of cook inside of me, just kind of boil up inside of me, these emotions. And I'd imagine being Neem Karoli Baba. And then I'd imagine being Jesus. What would that feel like? And before my brain, when my mind would come up with any resistance, how can you do that? You're not supposed to do that. And I just did it. And I allow that emotion to come up in my eyes. And I just open myself up to it. And anything that comes from my mind that wants to block, that wants to give me all these thoughts, I just kind of smile and shake my head. No, I'm doing this. I'm doing this right now. That's what happens, is that you kind of keep moving into this vulnerable place, into this open place. And it just, like, once that gate starts to open, and right as it starts to open, you start to feel it, you just open it all the way. Like, even when I do my hands like this, kind of open that gate, and then you open it all the way. Even with me opening my hands like that, you can kind of feel the opening of the energy of that. The other one is, I just went with my wife Valerie to go hear Krishna Das do a devotional chant called kirtan. And although it wasn't the best time that I've seen Krishna Das, he told the story about, he was in India and he went to someone's house, and they just opened their house to him, and he was a devotee, and Krishna Das had a question for him. He said, I really want to know about this Nataraj, this aspect of the divine, called the Lord Shiva. It's a Hindu god that its aspect is the dancing Shiva, and just one of many, many aspects of this deity. And he says, I want to understand this. And he said he got out his pen and paper and he started to get ready to write down what this Nataraj means. And this guy starts going into what it is. And so he started to just say the word Nataraj, 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 Nataraj. And he was stuck in this pose. He was stuck in this connection. And it just happened. It just happened right now. Just because I allowed it. I just allowed myself to connect as that person in oneness. And we can all do that. It's like a decision that we make to lose ourselves in that vulnerability of becoming in that oneness. And try that sometime. Nataraj. Nataraj. You don't even have to know what it means, because there's a meaning behind the vowels and the consonants and the sounds of that word. Nataraj. And all I do is I'm just holding my hand up. Nataraj. 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 And I keep on saying that, and I keep allowing myself to open up and open up. So that's one way, is just to kind of go into the story of this person who experienced it, and imagine yourself as that person and how that would feel, and allowing the resistance to naturally fall away. It's really not something that you have to practice for 10 years. It's just something that you determine for yourself that you're going to experience this no matter what the resistance is. So the other thing is, so now a little bit more practice and practical things I want to give you is the things that kind of keep me in that ability to drop into that is movies and music that really open me up. Like when there is something happening in a movie, you know, when you're in the movie theater, you've got to keep yourself cool. You got to keep yourself kind of contained, right? But when you're at home and you're watching this movie that really opens you up, like for me, it's Cloud Atlas that I've watched 36 times. And every time I watch it, I allow myself to be taken by that love, by the experience of the scene that's happening. And so I keep on allowing myself to just feel it, and I might even close my eyes. And what I'll do to kind of activate it more is I'll arch my back like that. And I'll pull my shoulders back and arch my back. And if you do that, as the emotion is happening, you get what they call little kriyas. They're like little electrical shoots in your activations in your body. And if I'm having the emotion, I'll kind of do that, and it kind of activates the spine and brings in more of this energy, and you can kind of feel it in your body. So yeah, I kind of force that a little bit, but it kind of opens up my heart and activates my spine. And same thing with music. If you're listening to Pavarotti or Southern Baptist choir, you know, this stuff that's just really just stirs it up, and it's like this building thing. You can do that, and you can kind of drop yourself into that. And right when the mind starts to say, you know, be careful how you look, you're being kind of weird, let that go and just drop yourself. You're not going to die from this. You know, you're just going to open yourself up to more love. It's like open yourself up to more energy. Children's cooking shows, that'll do it. You watch these little kids in these cooking shows that they're not bashing each other and they're not trying to get up on each other. They're just supporting each other and loving each other, and they cry and they say, oh, I'm so sorry to see you go. You know, watch that stuff and see what that does for you. The other thing is looking directly at your whole entire self and loving and embracing what you've hated or disliked about yourself. So here's the mind coming in and saying, no, you really did some bad things and you should feel shame about that. Well, there's this covering of love that can happen, that even though the mind wants to feel, you know, activate shame in that and hate that, you come in and have this feeling of love over the whole thing. Yeah, even though there's shame there, let's love that too. Because the reality is that even though there's shame there, there's one thing that's always there in the shame and the anger and the rage and all those negative emotions that you've ever felt. There's been this field of awareness in all of it. And like you can't get away from it. Even in those dirty deeds and all those things, there's always the awareness of that. And that's the love. That's the thing that embraces all things. So you could have the worst emotion, the worst negative emotion, but in the emotion, the reason why you're feeling it is because there is loving awareness there. That's the kind of thing that you go, oh my gosh, I can't get away from love. I can't get away from loving awareness. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, loving awareness is there in the whole thing. You know, it's like, if I was the mind, I would say, I'm screwed, I can't win. Losing yourself means losing what is not real. What is not real? And the other way to say it is what is not permanent. So if it's not permanent, this is the kind of the equation that you go with. If it's not permanent, it must be temporary. If it's temporary, it must not be real. It has to be permanent to be real. Otherwise, it's a passing phase. It's a passing creation. It's a passing illusion. So if I say, you know, who am I? I have to only look at what has been permanent with me. I can't look at my religion, my political affiliation, my body, because that changes. I can't look at my health state because that changes. I can't look at my face. I can't look at anything that changes. What is the thing that always stays the same? And it's something not physical. And that's that loving awareness. So that was really the only thing that is real, is the thing that is permanent, and that is love or energy. Your energy is the thing that forms into other things. You know, this cup, this phone, this light, this room, everything is photons of light. It's all energy, and it changes form into one thing to the next thing. And the only thing that's really real in the whole thing is the energy, the consciousness. So even all these things that have form, if you look at them close enough, they're 99% empty space. There's very little practical matter in the thing. So just the reason why I'm saying this, because when you start to ponder these things, you start to not understand anything. And in the not understanding anything, you start to lose yourself. And then there's this point where you realize, I don't understand shit. Where do I go? Where do I go? The only place left to go is to drop into love. To allow yourself just to embrace, just drop yourself into what you don't understand. And that's love. So once the emotion hits, you open up to all of it, every single bit of it. You allow it to just take you over. If the mind can't understand this losing you, love that too. It's like whatever comes up, you love that too. And it just all gets kind of soaked up into this letting go into love. We have a choice. If we are upset that we are not living in this love all the time, love that too. Like, even though I'm talking about this, there are times when of course I haven't lost myself in love that day at that time. And I may get angry. And I love that too. Like, that's like the secret, like, back door into it. Like, my mind wants to keep me in anger, wants to keep me in frustration. But I've got this secret weapon kind of thing. Like, I'm going to love that too. Even though I didn't perform at my best, I'm going to love that too. Because I'm this, I'm connected with this character, Daniel, and he's imperfect. And I love that too. What choice do I have? No matter what comes up, I love that too. Even when I can't love that, I love that too. Like, it's this ongoing equation, always adding this full acceptance, full embracing of that. So I get to be who I am. I get to be this imperfect being, and I love that too, which leads me into being a more perfect being. Because in the perfect being is not that you do everything perfect, is you realize that you are this imperfection and perfection. Use what you have for the sole purpose of losing yourself in love. These parts of you that you don't love, these parts of you that are imperfect, use that to lose yourself in love. Use that. How can you use that as a tool to lose yourself in love? Somebody pisses you off, you get the realization of why it pissed you off. You come back, that you realize that you got into more awareness of yourself. Wow, that leads you into gratitude. Wow, love that person who brought that up for you. Lose yourself in love with that. I invite you, I challenge you to use any little thing that you have that you don't love, that you hate about yourself, that you don't like about yourself, about your life. Find some way to lose yourself in love. And it has to be dropping out of your mind and accepting and allowing and embracing. There is a presence, a force, an energy that has already lost itself and found itself in this love. It's already done. What's encapsulating this whole thing, this whole life, this personal life that you're experiencing, is love. You're not going to be able to get away from it. Whatever you do, whatever you say is encapsulated with love. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale all the way down. Partly open your mouth for the ease of your exhale. Inhale through your nose. Exhale all the way out through your open mouth. Let your shoulders drop. I release control and surrender to the flow of the love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I release control and surrender to the flow of love that heals me. I am. I am, I am, I am. You've never been anything more than I am. The mind thinks you have been. The mind thinks you've been a Christian. The mind thinks you've been a Muslim or a Hindu or a spiritual person or a messed up person or a hurt person or an addict or a pastor or a plumber or an American or sick or well. But you've never been those things. You have been experiencing the energy of those things. But you've always been I am. Just I am. You've never been anything less either. You've never come from smallness into I am. You've always been I am. You're not going towards I am. You've always been and ever will be I am. Just accept it. You're having a dream of being something separate from I am. Something individuated. I am. Now allow yourself to feel what that is. I am. I am, because it has no form, it has no personality to keep it into a box and to keep it individuated. It has no borders. It has no form. If it has no form and no borders, how far does it go? How far does it not go? If it has no borders and no start and no end, what is that? It's not a thing. But also, it's everything. Because that is what makes up all things. This I am, this awareness, this presence of beingness. I am. You've never left it. Just like when you have a dream, you've never left your bed. And yet the dream was so real. In this dream, you never left. In order to have this dream of a person, of a human being, it's okay to be I am. and still be a person. You can do it both. You can have a crazy dream life experience. You can have the experience of being born and the experience of dying and everything in between, and still be I am. You can be whatever you are. Whatever you've been, whatever you're becoming, and still be I am. What you're doing right now in your human experience is communicating and connecting with that I am more and more in the experience. You're being more and more present in the dream. What would happen if you did lose yourself in love? Right now, you just lost it. You just lost yourself in love. Don't worry, you'll recover. You'll be back to yourself. But with this added experience, this knowing of what it feels like to lose yourself and still be there. And having those little experiences of losing yourself more and more, you realize that, don't worry, you're not going anywhere. You don't have to drop your job. You don't have to change your relationship unless you want to. But you get to lose yourself in love and go live, and then lose yourself in love and then go live. And you get to insert that in different parts of your life. And life becomes authentic. Life becomes happy. Life becomes real. And you start to drop into more peace, equanimity, joy, presence. Don't worry, you don't need to cure cancer. You don't need to become the next president. You just get to be happy. Thank you. That was a good one. Thank you for bringing this up in me and allowing me to connect with this. And bless you.